Did you know that one of the most famous dance scenes in movie history almost never happened? That's right. The scene where Gene Kelly dances in the rain while singing his heart out was almost cut from the movie. Imagine if that moment disappeared forever. The movie Singin' in the Rain came out in 1952, and it's loved by millions of people around the world. But behind all that joy and dancing and singing, there are secrets, strange stories, amazing moments that nobody talks about. Some of these facts will surprise you. Some will make you laugh. Some might even make you see the movie in a completely different way. Let's dive in and discover 20 weird and amazing facts about Singin' in the Rain. Fact number 20. Gene Kelly actually broke his ankle dancing, but nobody knew Gene Kelly was the star and hero of this movie. He danced across rooftops. He sang while splashing in puddles. He made everything look so easy and natural, like dancing was the simplest thing in the world. Here's the secret. During one of the big dance numbers, Gene Kelly actually broke his ankle. Not a small break. A real, painful break. And do you know what he did? He kept dancing. He didn't stop. He didn't tell anyone. He just kept moving, kept smiling, kept performing. The cameras kept rolling because nobody realized what had happened. Think about that for a moment. Gene was experiencing real pain while trying to make other people happy. That's not just acting. That's real courage on film. Gene was a true performer, the kind of person who would rather finish the job than admit he was hurt. When you watch those scenes today, you're watching a man push through real pain to create magic. The smile on his face isn't fake. Energy in his movements isn't pretend. He was actually injured. He danced anyway. What looked like perfect joy was powered by real suffering. Fact number 19. The famous rainstorm scene used real water, and lots of it when Gene Kelly dances in the rain while singing Singin' in the Rain. It looks so magical, so perfect, like it was all planned by nature itself. The water seems to fall gently. The puddles seem to splash playfully. Everything seems designed by a beautiful dream. That wasn't rain from the sky. That was real water. The movie crew set up special machines and sprayed water everywhere. They had to do the scene over and over again because they wanted it to be perfect. Gene had to stand in that water again and again while the cameras rolled. The water was cold. It was wet. It wasn't gentle. It was like standing under a waterfall. Every time they did another take, more cold water poured down on him. His clothes were soaked. His hair was dripping. And Gene danced through every second of it with joy on his face. The water wasn't fake. The cold wasn't fake. Only the smile was acting. Everything else was real. Imagine standing in freezing water doing complex dance moves while pretending to be happy. That's what Gene Kelly did, over and over, until they got the perfect shot. It looked effortless. Fact number 18. Debbie Reynolds was only 19 years old when she filmed this movie. Debbie Reynolds played the young love interest, and she was just a teenager. Most of us at 19 are worried about homework and friends and what to wear to school. Debbie was dancing with famous movie stars in a major Hollywood production. She had to learn complicated dance steps. She had to remember lines. She had to be professional while everyone around her was a legend in the movie industry. And she was terrified. Debbie later said that she didn't know how to dance when she started filming. Let that sink in. She was hired for a dancing role, but she couldn't dance. They had to teach her everything. Every step. Every movement. She trained for weeks and weeks. Her feet hurt. Her muscles ached. She felt embarrassed dancing next to Gene Kelly, who was one of the greatest dancers in the world. But she never gave up. She came to work every day. She practiced over and over. She pushed through the pain and the fear. And when you watch the movie, you would never know she was a beginner. She looks like she's been dancing her whole life. That's the power of hard work and determination. That's what happens when a young person refuses to quit, even when everything is difficult. Fact number 17. The movie was made during Hollywood's golden age, but it almost wasn't made at all. The studio almost didn't want to make this movie. The big executives sat in their fancy offices and said no. They thought it was too simple, too happy, too cheerful. They wanted darker, more serious stories. They wanted movies about crime and tragedy and darkness. They didn't believe in a simple story about people who loved to dance and sing. But the director, Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen, believed in it. They knew this movie could make people smile. They knew it could make people forget their problems. They knew it could give people hope. So they fought for it. They pushed for it. They showed executives the script. They explained the vision. They convinced people to take a chance. They were right. The movie became one of the greatest films ever made and loved for over 70 years. Sometimes the things that almost never happen become the most important things. Sometimes saying yes to something simple and joyful is the bravest choice a person can make. The studio could have made a dark, serious movie that people forgot about. Instead, they made magic. Fact number 16, the sets were bigger than you'd ever guess. When you watch the movie, the world looks real. Streets look like actual streets in Hollywood. The apartments look like real apartments where real people live. The dance halls look like places you could actually visit. But here's the secret. Almost everything was built on a soundstage. The rainy street where Gene Kelly dances? Built. The apartment building? Built. The Hollywood studios created entire worlds inside giant buildings. The sets were enormous. Some of them were as big as a real building. They took months and months to build. Hundreds of workers built these fake worlds so carefully that you can't tell they're fake. They painted every detail. They added realistic furniture. They created fake windows and doors that looked exactly like real ones. The sets were so good that actors could believe they were really standing on a real street. It looked effortless on screen. But behind the camera, it was a massive, complicated project. Carpenters and painters and electricians all worked together to create magic. Fact number 15, Jean Hagen couldn't really sing, but she became a star anyway. Jean Hagen played Lena Lamont, the mean movie star character, and she was brilliant. She was funny. She was cruel. She was perfectly evil. You hated her character while loving to watch her perform. But here's the funny part. Jean couldn't really sing. In the movie, when Lena sings with her beautiful, perfect voice, that's not Jean's voice. They used another singer. Another woman's voice comes out of Jean's mouth. But Jean's acting was so good that you totally believe she's a real singer. Her voice sounds right. Her lips match up Bruce-ly. And she makes you laugh and cringe at her awful personality. The way she moves, the way she speaks, the way she treats other people. All of it is perfect. Jean proved that great acting can do almost anything. You don't need to be perfect at everything. You just need to be perfect at being yourself. You just need to commit completely to your character. Jean became a star because she was an amazing actress, even though she couldn't sing. That's beautiful. Fact number 14. The movie was made during a big strike in Hollywood while they were filming this happy, joyful movie. Real trouble was happening outside the studio gate. Hollywood was going through a big strike. People were fighting for better working conditions and better pay. Writers and actors and crew members were protesting. They walked on picket lines. They demanded change. The movie set was like an island of happiness in the middle of real-world problems and anger. The actors and crew had to keep working while people outside were protesting. Some of them probably felt guilty. Some of them probably felt scared. Some of them probably disagreed with each other about the strike. But they still came to work. They still danced and sang and created magic. It's strange to think that such a light, fun movie was made during such a difficult time. Sometimes art helps us escape from our problems. Sometimes that escape is exactly what we need. Sometimes the world needs laughter and joy, especially during dark times. Fact number 13. The dance moves were incredibly difficult and took weeks to learn. Every dance move in this movie was choreographed. Every step was planned. Every jump was practiced. Every spin was perfected. Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds had to learn complex routines. They had to remember them perfectly. They had to do them again and again until the cameras got exactly the right angle. They had to hit every mark. They had to land in exactly the right spot. They had to time their movements perfectly with the music. A 5-minute dance scene could take a whole day to film, maybe even longer. The dancers would be tired and sweaty and aching. Their feet would hurt. Their legs would burn. Their backs would scream in pain. Then they'd do it again, and again, and again, till it was perfect. Until the director said yes, that's it. Until the cameras captured exactly what they were looking for. What looks like joy and ease on screen is actually the result of painful, exhausting, but that's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it real. Fact number 12. The movie borrowed ideas from old Hollywood musicals. This movie didn't come from nowhere. The filmmakers studied old movies. They watched how other directors told stories. They watched how dancers moved. They studied music and rhythm and timing. They borrowed ideas that worked. They mixed old techniques with new ideas. The result was something that felt familiar but also felt brand new. It was like taking recipes from the past and cooking something delicious for the future. It was like building on what came before while creating something completely original. Filmmakers understood that you don't create in a vacuum. You stand on the shoulders of everyone who came before you. You learn from their successes and failures. You take what works and make it your own. Sometimes the best creativity comes from standing on the shoulders of giants. Fact number 11. Costume designer Irene made all the clothes by hand. The clothes in this movie look beautiful and perfect. The dresses are elegant and colorful. The suits are sharp and clean. But they weren't just bought from a store. A brilliant costume designer named Irene designed every outfit. Her team made them by hand, stitch by stitch, button by button. They measured every actor. They took notes about what movements they'd be doing. They thought about how the clothes would move during dance scenes. Irene thought about what each character would wear. She thought about their personality. She thought about who they were inside. She made sure every color worked with the lights and the cameras. She made sure every outfit told a story. It was an invisible art form. Most people watching the movie never think about the costumes. They just see beautiful clothes on beautiful people, but every outfit was created with love and care. Every piece was made by hand. That's dedication to an art form that most people never notice. Fact number 9. The movie's music was already famous before the film came out. The songs in this movie weren't written for the film. Most of them were old songs that people already loved. Singin' in the Rain was written in 1929. That was over 20 years before the movie came out. It was already popular when they used it in the movie. People had been singing it for decades. But using these famous old songs was smart. People already knew them. They already loved them. They already had memories attached to these songs. When they heard them in the movie, it felt like meeting an old friend. It felt like coming home. The filmmakers used familiar music to tell a new story. It was like using colors everyone knows to paint something nobody's ever seen before. It was like writing a new poem using old, beautiful words. The combination of old music and new storytelling created something special. Fact number 8. Stanley Donen was a brilliant director, but he almost gave up. Stanley Donen directed this movie with Gene Kelly. Together, they created magic. But Stanley almost quit before the movie was finished. He was tired. He was frustrated. He wasn't sure the movie was working. He wondered if people would like it. He wondered if all his hard work would matter. Thought about walking away, giving up, letting someone else finish the job. But Gene Kelly believed in him. Gene Kelly pushed him to keep going. Gene Kelly said, "We can do this. We can make something great." Gene Kelly knew they could create something special. So Stanley didn't give up. He kept directing. He kept pushing. He kept believing. And the result was one of the greatest movies ever made. Sometimes we need someone else to believe in us when we stop believing in ourselves. Sometimes we need someone to tell us keep going. Don't quit. You're almost there. That's what Gene Kelly gave to Stanley Donen. Fact number 7. The movie almost didn't have its most famous scene. The studio wanted to cut the Singin' in the Rain number from the movie. The executives looked at the budget. They looked at how long the scene was. They looked at the cost of all that water and all those cameras. They said, "Cut it. It's too long, too expensive, too something." But Gene Kelly fought for it. He knew it was special. He knew it was magic. He knew it would stay in people's hearts forever. He refused to let them cut it. He said, "No, we're keeping this scene. This is the heart of the movie." So they kept it. And he was right. That scene became the most famous moment in the whole movie. It's the scene people remember. It's the scene that defines the entire film. Sometimes your instinct is right, even when other people doubt you. Sometimes you have to fight for what you believe in. Sometimes saying, "No, we're doing this my way," is the bravest thing you can do. Fact number 6. The movie was made in bright Technicolor, which was still new and amazing. This movie was filmed in Technicolor. This was a special kind of color film that was expensive and new and beautiful. Regular black and white film was common. Color film was rare. Expensive, only important movies got to use it. The colors in Singin' in the Rain are bright and alive. The blues are deep and rich. The reds are bold and warm. The yellows are bright and cheerful. The filmmakers used Technicolor to paint the world. Every color was chosen carefully. They knew that color could tell a story. Color could create emotion. The technology was brand new, and this movie showed off what was possible. It was like being the first person to see the world in color after living in black and white. Imagine that. Imagine watching this movie for the first time in vivid, beautiful Technicolor. Imagine how amazing that would have been. Fact number 4. The movie's budget was huge for that time period. Making Singin' in the Rain cost a lot of money. For 1952, it was expensive. Really expensive. Much more than most movies cost. The studio had to believe in the movie to spend that much. They had to trust the filmmakers. They had to risk a lot of money on a story about happiness and dancing and love. That was a big bet. A risky bet. But the studio believed in Gene Kelly. They believed in the director. They believed that something special could happen. And money spent on something beautiful is never really wasted. The movie made back its money many times over. More importantly, it created something that would be loved for generations. People are still watching this movie. People are still loving it. That's a better return on investment than any amount of money. Fact number 3. Gene Kelly choreographed most of the dance scenes himself. Gene Kelly didn't just dance in this movie. He created the dances. He thought about what movements would work. He experimented. He tried different ideas. He combined different styles. He mixed tap dancing with modern movement. He made the dances look natural, like people moving to music, not like trained dancers showing off. That's much harder to do than it sounds. Making something look easy takes incredible skill. Gene would spend hours thinking about a single dance number. He would work with the music. He would move his body different ways. He would try things that didn't work. He would build on things that did work. He was an artist. He was creating something beautiful. Making something look natural and easy is actually one of the hardest things to do. That's Gene Kelly's gift. Fact number 2. The movie's theme is about survival and reinvention. If you really listen to the story, the movie is about people trying to survive in Hollywood. It's about fake people and fake voices and people pretending to be something they're not. It's about characters who have to pretend to be stars when they're really just dancers. The happy, cheerful surface hides a story about struggling artists trying to make it in a cruel business. The dancing and singing are beautiful. But underneath, it's a story about fighting to survive and staying true to yourself. It's a story about not giving up, even when the system is against you. It's a story about believing in yourself when nobody else does. That's what makes it so powerful. That's why it still matters today. Fact number 1. Singin' in the Rain is one of the greatest movies ever made, but it was almost forgotten. This might seem impossible to believe, but when Singin' in the Rain first came out, not everyone loved it. Some critics didn't understand it. Some people thought it was too simple, too cheerful, too happy. They wanted movies with more darkness, more complexity. It took time for people to realize how special it was. Years, decades now, we know it's one of the greatest movies ever made. Movie experts put it at the top of their lists. People around the world watch it and love it. Families watch it together. Kids watch it for the first time and fall in love with it. But it could have been forgotten. It could have disappeared into history. Instead, it became immortal. It became timeless. Sometimes the greatest things take time to be recognized. Sometimes the world needs to catch up to art. Sometimes genius has to wait for people to understand it. Bonus fact, the secret behind the smiles, how they stayed happy during difficult days. Here's something almost nobody talks about. Making this movie was hard. Really hard. The dancers were sore. The sets were hot under the big lights. The schedules were long. The hours were exhausting. People were frustrated and tired and aching. Muscles hurt. Feet hurt. Heads hurt from banging into things. Dancers would go home and soak their feet in ice water. They would stretch and massage their sore muscles. They would go to bed early because they were so exhausted. But when the cameras started rolling, they smiled. They danced. They sang like they were having the best day of their lives. How did they do it? How did they transform pain into joy? Gene Kelly later said that the music helped. The songs reminded them why they were there. The songs had been loved by millions of people for years. When they sang these songs, they felt connected to something bigger than themselves. The choreography gave them something to focus on besides their pain. When you're concentrating on hitting a difficult step perfectly, you can't think about how much your feet hurt. And the other dancers, their energy was contagious. When one person started smiling, everyone else caught that smile. They created a circle of happiness that was powerful enough to push through exhaustion. The fake rain was real. The difficult dance moves were real. The aching muscles were real. But the smiles? Those became real too, after a while. That's the magic of art. Sometimes pretending to be happy is the first step to actually becoming happy. Sometimes acting joyful makes you actually feel joy. That's a secret that only performers know. Singin' in the Rain teaches us something important about life. It shows us that joy doesn't come from having an easy life. Joy comes from dancing even when you're tired. Joy comes from singing even when you're scared. Joy comes from creating beauty in a world that's difficult and sometimes cruel. The movie was made during hard times. The actors suffered through difficult stunts and long hours. The costumes were heavy. The lights were hot. The schedules were punishing. But all of that pain created something beautiful that has lasted for over 70 years. That's the power of art. That's the power of people working together to create something that matters. Every time you watch this movie and smile, you're feeling the happiness that Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds and Donald O'Connor created. You're experiencing the result of their pain and their courage and their love of dancing. That's real magic. If you enjoyed these stories about Singin' in the Rain, please subscribe to our channel. Every movie hides a truth, and every movie has secrets waiting to be discovered. We'll keep uncovering them, one story at a time. Thank you for watching, and keep dancing through life, no matter what.